Now I invite Mr. Naveen Krishna Yamarthi from AstraZeneca to please address the audience.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry for that 2 seconds late. I just realized that I should have done that before. Okay, I looked at the sponsors, and then before I start, I wanted to start off saying that without that, we can't really work through whatever I'm going to do. Siemens, ABB, Cognite, everything is baked into whatever I'm talking into. Thanks so much for that. Okay, steering, make, and supply operations in the AI era. When I was asked to kind of go through this kind of topic, I was just thinking supply chain, as most of you in this group are part of, is something which is more forecast. Forecast something which is not accurate by definition. And what we all strive to do is to get to as close to as possible to get it accurate. That's the reason it's cake, right? That's the reason it's really challenging. Now you add AI to it, it becomes really challenging and we need to steer it. Okay, let me jump in. This doesn't work still. Okay, before I start, AstraZeneca, as most of you are aware, for those who are not aware, not from a pharma industry, we are a biopharmaceutical company. This is AstraZeneca at a glance. We are science and innovation led. While we are science and innovation led, we don't focus on every therapeutic area. Our key focus is oncology. I'm really proud to say that I work for a company which wants to eliminate cancer as a cause of death in the world. And then, we are really also focused on rare diseases where there are no medicines available for patients. We are focused on patients. That's the reason we chose them. But more importantly, we are super focused on sustainability. I don't know how many of you are aware, pharma as a domain emits more carbon than aviation industry. Not many are aware of it, right? And then our CEO is very clear. He wanted to be carbon negative. Good challenge to have. So we are committed for people and sustainability. About 110 countries that our drugs are sold, also in India, big time. Okay. Now, what's a bold ambition for 2030? We want to deliver 20 new medicines. For those from the pharma industry probably are aware. For those who are not, an average time it takes from the idea of a molecule to reach to the patient is 10 to 12 years. Our CEO wants to deliver 20 medicines in 5 years. So we've got a pipeline, but we still need to deliver. I'm happy that we are about halfway mark there. We want to also lead in sustainability. I already covered that. We want to be carbon negative at some point in time. We're trying to see how to get there. And then $80 billion company. When this ambition was kind of drafted, we were around 40 billion. Last year we were 60 billion, now we want to be 80 billion. That's about AstraZeneca. With that being said, my name is Naveen Krishna Yamarthi. As you heard, I lead the global supply chain capability from a digital perspective. And that's the reason I work very closely with Siemens, ABB, Cognite, Hybrid kind of companies to drive autonomous manufacturing of drugs and self-filling supply chains. Okay. This slide I added only today morning because I was reading through some Gartner thing. As you see, it's a copyrighted Gartner one, but it was developed for AstraZeneca. It's a very IT-focused one, but then this caught my eye. What is Gartner saying? Gartner is saying that as per them, by 2030, 0% of IT work will be done without AI. 75% would be with human in the loop. And 25% would be without a human intervention. This is 2030. This slide was probably made at the beginning of the year. Now we are thinking, should this be like 28 or 29? Because every time, the pace at which AI is moving is unprecedented, right? Now that creates more challenges. I was talking to Madhavi today morning, who's going to talk after me, and I was telling her saying that I don't know to talk anything about IT. Okay, so I'll move back to supply chain, more focused on regulated industries. Why I put that slide? Because what does that slide tell you? Saying that for all of you who are in a supply chain domain, where you want to deliver something to your end customers or other business, the supply chain that we built over years, the supply chain that I learned, or we all learned, for a world is very different than the world that is today. That world doesn't exist. However, focusing on regulated areas, why I think that this is a new world where what we design doesn't really mean anything, because of the three forces that are acting together, which you're going to hear more in the coming sessions focusing around this, but this is regulated environments specific, right? One is AI. We know that AI acceleration, AI models are outperforming humans. That's the reason they're invented, and they better outperform. Yeah. Two, regulatory pressure. The more AI you use, if you're in finance, banking, refinery, oil, pharma, the pressure of regulatory would increase, because they want to ensure that whatever AI that we are using is kind of not disrupting the end purpose of what we are inventing or what we are supplying. And the third one is the geopolitical. The geopolitical situation that we are in today, right from your wars, right from your Suez Canal blockages, right from your tariffs or whatever you want to take, that number is available public, right? You Google, you get it. $82 billion lost in 5 years, from 21 to 25. That's big, right? That's like 8 big companies. So if you are losing that kind of money in supplying whatever is produced to your end users while you have these three, how do you kind of navigate this? Now, what I think, which we would probably look at navigating, here, these are the key focus areas that I want to think through. As I said, supply chain by itself is a forecast, but these are the ones which I think, if we focus, should help us get there. I tried classifying the pain points into three, which are cross-industry, not only pharma. I remember, so before AstraZeneca, I was working for Siemens IoT, and I remember talking about the same points there. Before that, I was working for Flextronics manufacturing on supply chain. I was talking the same points there. That's the reason I think it's common across. The regulated paradox. Regulation makes it difficult, but I think there's also an edge that it provides. I also want to talk a little bit about what we are doing in AstraZeneca as a supply chain, automation and self-healing. And then I want to leave you with a couple of use cases, real use cases with numbers across the industry, and then what would help us get there. Okay? Now, if you move on quickly, the three common pain points, I think fragmented data. Your AI is as good as your data is. And we all know over years we have so many systems, so many silos that you can't really get a unified data that easily. Reactive recovery, I think we are trained to kind of predict something which, or have dashboards, have analytics, have reports, based on which you take action. But these reports are something which has already happened. So we need to get a mind shift of not act on something that has happened, but act on something that before happens. And then spreadsheet planning. Today in supply chain, 67%, at least in pharma, is still planned on supply chain. Now, we want to get rid of that. Now, the second one is the regulatory paradox that I call about. Every time I talk to my team, every time I talk to my peers across the world, this is what I keep hearing. It's very hard. I mean, this is no straightforward industry. This is not an IT services industry. Getting IT, AI is very difficult because of regulatory thing. One, because regulators don't agree for a black box model. You cannot say there's a data in, there's something that's happening, and then I get a refined AI model. Regulators don't approve your products. Two, it takes 6 to 18 months to integrate all the systems and get it. And the speed at which we are running, this doesn't help. Three, change control conflicts with the compliance systems that we already have. Four, data silos, which I already spoke about, because we got ERPs, we got lab information systems, we've got quality systems, which are all working in different data models from different vendors. How do you kind of bring them together? However, you get that right, and these are the numbers from, I've kind of blocked the company names here, but these are real numbers from different pharma companies. 73% of pharma supply disruptions are caused by forecast errors. AI halved it in last 1 year. This is for a huge pharma company which is in India. 60% of quality deviations. Now, quality deviation is a crime for most of the domains, but more so in pharma, because there are patients waiting, right? AI-led initiatives reduces it by 60%. 40% in terms of batch releases, because you don't want to throw your batch into the ocean. And 3x faster regulatory submissions. Regulatory submissions takes a lot of time for pharma. That's the reason out of the 10 to 12 years, at least 2 years, 3 years is with regulatory. How are we overcoming this in AstraZeneca? This was a vision as a supply chain head about 3 years back, where AI was still very native. We wanted to create something called Astrid. And this is what I was saying. I've got almost most of the sponsors here, along with a lot of others who helped me build this. Okay? Astrid is an end-to-end, has two things. One is end-to-end development and clinical. Other one is end-to-end commercial supply. Why do I want to talk about this? Because I believe this model can be applied across industries, including IT service industries. What are we doing? These are, at the bottom, are our foundational systems, your SAPs, your LIMS, your Coupas, your OMPs, your APOs. All our companies, everyone who's sitting here is working on this, right? Here and there. You have all those and then have an integration layer. We tried creating like this in my previous company. And I should tell you, it was half successful. But then, if you really ask me now, with the technology, that's happening. And then we want to get into another layer, which is called agentic intelligence. It has two parts. One is AI development, agents development, but the other one is how they kind of govern themselves, which we call agentic AI orchestration platform, which is already in production today. And then at last, we want to create an end-to-end connector from molecule identification to supply to the patients. That's where we are on Astrid. The challenge is our CEO now wants it like 2 years before, so we're trying to see how we can partner and get it right? Okay, few use cases of this Astrid that helped us. One, predictive deviation. This is also, if you actually, I see few of you taking pictures, you take the picture, you put it in ChatGPT, it will tell you which company it is, okay? 14 batches were prevented in last 1 year. Generally, to prevent one batch, it takes 4 years from deviations. So that's a live use case that something like Astrid helped. A batch record, a master batch record, I don't know how many of you have seen in a pharma industry is like this size of paper. And that you need to store at least for 14 years. So you have an AI batch record review, which you don't even have to turn a page and then it gives you everything. That kind of changes from 6 hours to 40 minutes per batch. That's amazing reduction of time. Kappa intelligence, again, it's more of corrective action and preventive action. Across the network, when you have to do a Kappa, you might have to go to your suppliers, your vendors, their 3PS scope and things like that. It's not easy to rectify a Kappa in a regulated industry. So this is another use case that we used. Regulatory ready reports. I've been talking about regulation so much. So that having that data on the fingertips when the inspection happens is so important. And I'm pretty sure I have people from regulated industry here, not only pharma, but also finance, banking, and things like that, okay? All right, there are a few which are work in progress, which I have a target to deliver by next quarter, okay? Shift handover co-pilot. Line clearance and shift handover for even electronics manufacturing where it is very static, like pharma, is very important in today's world. I think we are running an AI-generated handover briefs, which kind of will take not more than 30 minutes per shift. We're also talking about SOP Q&A assistant, which is unified across all 29 countries' manufacturing plants. In one plant, it's easy, but then I'll talk at the last slide saying that why it is important not to do it that way. Anomaly alert engine is another thing which is on the engineering side that we're trying to get onto, because this will help us not to be reactive, but be very proactive. Supply disruption AI, we want to know what happens if there is another Suez Canal blockage. How will you get to know? There are platforms like P44, I don't know how many of you know Project 44, we're using Resilink. We club that with our AI ability, and then we're trying to do this, okay? Now, why am I talking about that? Let me connect the dots on my second slide. While we are heavily regulated, we are still doing it. And what helps us doing that is the governance in place. So the AI governance in regulated operations, I believe, is the key to success. Now, the four non-negotiables that I personally believe would help, and at least have helped AstraZeneca when we were trying to build this, is model validation. I think we need to log the vision. I'll probably spend a minute more on this. It's not easy to log the vision of late. 2003, having a conversational chatbot was AI. No, that's not AI anymore, right? You try to learn it, there's a new model. It's when things are changing so fast, how do you lock your vision? So I think that's where the forums like this really help. Because you'll start, they kind of make you think a little ahead. So it is tough, but that is the key. You need to lock your vision, otherwise you're changing your goalpost all the time. Full audit trail is a requirement for regulations. As simple as that. It could be AI, it could be manual, it could be RPA, it could be system driven, it could be recorded, it could be on the cloud, it could be anywhere. I never thought Amazon data center would go down until recently. Okay? And I know what happened after that. I'm pretty sure the IT colleagues in this room would know what they would have gone through, especially if you have audit trails. Explainability, I think, remember, when you have got regulators and inspectors, they're also going through a learning curve. I've got someone who's actually asking, how can AI give user provision to a validated system? They just don't agree, right? It can. So while they're going through their learning curve, we should also understand that the learning curves are not at the same pace. So how do you explain that gap is key. And then change control. Change control has always been important. I think now it became critical. You miss the change control, then you are actually missing the trick. For me, these are the four non-negotiables. I'm pretty sure I can kind of talk about a list here, but I think these I felt are the four key ones that we should not be missing, and these are the four ones I hope in next 2 days we're going to learn a lot more to see how we can implement them. In short, I want to end saying that in regulated industries, I don't think AI is a risk to manage. In fact, I think it's a tool that actually helps us complement all the compliance and regulatory and sustainable requirements that we have. Once you have this AI tool partner with the right vision and coupled with right integrations in the systems and the partners, one key thing that I believe, I come from a very strong IT background, I always believe that everything we do, I should build it. Then I realized in AI that doesn't happen. So quickly you realize and then you change and have a partner ecosystem. That really helped AstraZeneca. And also when I talk globally with my peers, that's what they say. This, I believe, was also a secret sauce for us to be in the top 5 supply chains across industry that Gartner released last month for AstraZeneca. So this was flagged in our board saying that, hey, all that we are doing did help us to be, is one of the parameters for us to be in the top 5 supply chain, which we are very proud of, because we were competing with Walmarts and we were competing with Walmarts and Amazons and all to be on the top 5. Not easy. Okay, all right, that's what I have. I still have a minute left on this thing, but I thought, if there are any, I can take 1 or 2 questions. After this, okay, on the panel. Brilliant. That's for me. Thanks so much for your every morning. Look forward for the whole 2 days.